Hey everyone! So, if you've ever found yourself deep in a DIY solar project, you've almost definitely run into this problem: mismatched parts. It's a classic puzzle. Well, today, we're going to dive headfirst into one of the biggest questions people have. And trust me, the answer could completely change how you think about your setup. So let's just get right to it. Okay, this is the big one. Picture this. You score an amazing deal on a big, powerful 24-volt solar panel. Awesome, right? But your whole setup, your lights, your inverter, everything, it's all built around a 12-volt battery. So the question is, can you actually make these two work together without having to spend a fortune on some super fancy controller? It's such a common situation, right? You've got all this high voltage potential just waiting to be tapped, and over here, you've got your lower voltage battery that's just hungry for a charge. Now, connecting them seems like it should be easy, but it's actually a real puzzle, and how you solve it can make a massive difference in how well your system actually performs. So, let's just cut to the chase. The simple answer is yes, you can. Technically, physically, you can absolutely make that connection happen. In fact, there are cheap controllers out there designed to do exactly that. But, and this is a big but, just hang on a second. Because that easy yes comes with a huge catch. And I'm not kidding when I say it's shocking. We're talking about a level of power loss that is so big, it might make you rethink the whole project. This is where it gets good. Okay, so what is this simple fix? Well, it usually comes in the form of a really common, really affordable piece of kit called a PWM solar charge controller. You see these everywhere. They're kind of the default choice for a lot of smaller, budget-friendly setups. The key word here is forces. You really have to understand this. A PWM controller, it's not some kind of smart, sophisticated converter. Think of it more like a bouncer at a club. It sees that high voltage coming from your 24-volt panel and basically just shoves it down to match the 12-volt level of the battery. And the way it does this is called pulse width modulation. It's basically just flicking a switch on and off, incredibly fast. That's how it keeps your battery from getting fried by that high voltage panel. It's a simple trick, but as you're about to see, it's also a really, really crude one. And this right here is the shocking catch I was talking about. So when you just force that voltage down, what do you think happens to all that extra power potential you paid good money for with that big panel? Well, I'll tell you what doesn't happen. It doesn't magically find a new home. All right, let's make this real. Imagine you've got a 300-watt solar panel. On a perfect sunny day, that thing is ready to pump out a solid 300 watts of juice to charge up your batteries, run your gear, the whole dream. But here comes the brutal math. Your panel is pushing out power at about, say, 30 volts and 10 amps. Volts times amps gives you watts, so that's your 300 watts. Now that PWM controller comes in and slams the voltage down to 12 volts to match the battery. But look, the current? It doesn't change. It's still 10 amps. So you do the new math. 12 volts times 10 amps, and you're only getting 120 watts to your battery. Ouch. And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows you the cold, hard reality. You paid for that big 300-watt bar of power, but what you're actually using is that little 120-watt bar. So where did the rest of it go? It's just gone. Poof! It literally turns into waste heat and disappears. Completely, utterly wasted. Let's put a number on it. You are losing 60% of your panel's power. 60. That means for every single hour that beautiful sun is shining, you are literally throwing away more than half the energy you could be collecting. That is it's a crazy level of inefficiency. All right, so if the PWM controller is the sledgehammer, the brute force approach, what's the smart way to do this? Well, that's where a much more advanced piece of tech comes in, the MPPT charge controller. See, an MPPT controller is completely different. It's a smart DC to DC converter. It doesn't just chop off and throw away that extra voltage. No way. It's smart. It's constantly hunting for the maximum power point of your panel, and then it does something amazing. It transforms that wasted voltage into extra charging current for your battery. This comparison really says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have PWM, a simple switch that just wastes power. On the other, you have MPPT, a smart converter that squeezes every last drop of power out of your panel. It is literally the difference between throwing energy in the trash and actually using it. I love this analogy. It makes it so clear. Think about it this way. Using a PWM controller is like having a giant, high-pressure fire hose. That's your 24-volt panel, and you're trying to connect it to a tiny little garden hose. That's your 12-volt battery. What do? You just kind of squeeze the big hose down, and all that extra water pressure and flow, it just spills all over the ground. Totally wasted. But the MPPT controller, it's so much smarter. Instead of just spilling that extra water, it's like you install a clever little turbine in the pipeline. It takes all that extra pressure, that excess voltage, and uses it to spin the turbine faster, which creates a more powerful flow, more amps, into your little garden hose. Nothing is wasted. It's all just intelligently converted. So, okay, with all of that laid out, how on earth do you choose the right one for you? Well, it really boils down to knowing your system and what you want to achieve. And let me tell you, the cheapest option up front is almost never the most cost-effective choice in the long run. Here's the bottom line. If you're building a pretty big system, or if you're mixing voltages, like in our example, a 24-volt panel with a 12-volt battery, or if you're using any kind of modern, high-efficiency panels or lithium batteries, an MPPT controller stops being a luxury. It becomes absolutely essential if you want to get the power you actually paid for. And this quote just nails it. Look, a PWM controller will charge your battery. It'll work. But an MPPT controller, it works smart. It makes sure that every single watt your panels can possibly squeeze out of the sun actually ends up where it belongs, in your system. At the end of the day, your solar system is an investment, right? It's an investment in your energy freedom. So I guess the only question left to ask yourself is this. Are you going to use a simple switch that just throws away more than half of your investment every single day? Or are you going to use a smart converter that actually harnesses its full power? The choice is totally up to you. Thanks for joining me.